So in chapter 6, we're going to be learning a little bit more about how art connects to our lives, carrying on part of the information that we started with in chapter 1. Now in chapter 1, we examined art through the ages, and now every culture of every time has produced art. Now art translates our insights into understanding. And we've also learned the various reasons people make art. The creation of art is different for each person. So we're going to be talking about aesthetics. Aesthetics is the study of principles and the appreciation of art, and it's directly linked to how we think about art. Now, there have been many philosophies about aesthetics. A German philosopher by the name of Immanuel Kant said that the appreciation of beauty is a matter of taste or judgment. It has two parts: subjectivity and universality. It is subjective, meaning it's directly linked to our ideas, our perceptions, our experiences. It's individual. Now, the principles of beauty are sort of universal. In other words, most of us have been taught or told what equates beauty. And these are the norms, whether you agree with them or not. And you see it every day in advertising. Kant believed one could only appreciate the beauty of art if the viewer is disinterested. Only if the viewer can separate the appreciation of art from the desire for it and is interested in art for its pure beauty, that's the only way that the viewer can achieve the judgment of taste. John Dewey, an American philosopher and an education reformer, described the aesthetic experience in ways that reflect the views of the Romantic painters. Dewey said that although the experience begins with the art object, the experience extends far beyond that to produce an ongoing exchange between the artist, the viewer, and the culture at large. Art is very important in facilitating human expression. Creating and viewing art provides us a way of stating or affirming our feelings. Often we learn values and philosophical ideas and themes through artistic means. So the function of artistic expression is the purpose for which the art was created. During the 19th century, there was a French group called Les Nabis, or in other words, the prophets. And they believed that their job as artists was to revive the ideals of painting, prophecy, modern modes, and to affirm spiritual goals by looking at nature's role and create new symbolisms. Maurice Denis was a major leader of this group, and his works were often landscapes with biblical or mystical themes. Now, politics and philosophy often go hand in hand. Albert Bierstadt's painting, Immigrants Crossing the Plains, is an example of that. This painting is an example of the 19th century philosophy of manifest destiny. This promoted the idea that the taking of lands and the use of natural resources were the God-given rights and duties for the settlers there. The settlers felt that they were destined to occupy the land, and that made them justified for taking away the rights of Native Americans. Now, believe it or not, politics, philosophy, and religion often go hand in hand. We said in a previous chapter that many of the Renaissance artists were employed by the church to create artwork that told the stories of the Bible. Since few people were literate, these artworks told those stories, sometimes in the way that the church wanted those stories portrayed. And the same thing occurred in Greek and Roman times with their gods. Many artists use their art to express personal feelings. The Expressionism and Surrealism are both styles that focus on personal artistic expression. Many of these artists even use fragments of their childhood as subject matter, like Marc Chagall. Art can bring people together or tear people apart. They can emphasize a group's commonalities or their differences. Now, times of war can both unify or ostracize. During World War I, mass media played the role of keeping the people at home informed about the battle. As many American men were off at war, women stepped up to fill many of the factory jobs that were necessary to keep things running. Rosie the Riveter is an icon of the American woman. Artwork can also emphasize the division in cultures. There were many artists who have told the stories of war. Before World War I, communication relied on slow postal service. Many families of Civil War soldiers could go years without hearing from their loved ones. Tensions ran so high that even after the war, conflicts continued. This painting by Winslow Homer tells the stories of Confederate soldiers that were held prisoner by the Union Army. Art can serve as communication between and within cultures. Many people were illiterate, so the symbolism and images created were better understood. The unique symbolism of each piece of kente cloth reflects the spiritual beliefs of a culture. Art can also be a means of protesting an issue. This artwork, created by Juan Quick-to-See Smith, shows icons that we all know, the outline of the United States. Notice that you can see all of the states, kind of, but their outlines are blurred. Some states have names, others do not. Each of these pieces combine to create a painting that protests the treatment of Native Americans. Art can serve to observe and commemorate special occasions of ordinary people. There are many ways to commemorate an event, but painting is probably the most common. Events can be happy or sad, either one being a commemorative event. Religious purposes are often the most common reason for an artist to create art. Every culture and religion has a large collection of religious art. From paintings to sculptures to architecture, the aspects of worship are presented in both simple and very grand ways. Now, information and education go hand in hand. Education was usually reserved for those higher levels, the people who could afford schools, things like that. The invention of the movable type printing press actually revolutionized the world. Okay, books were made more affordable, literacy rates rose, etc. The printing press not only allowed regular people to become literate, it also could unite or separate a country or a culture. This information could also be spread quickly through mass-produced propaganda.